Before your feet hit the floor, your hand already knows where it's going. You haven't said a word to anyone. You haven't had a single thought that was actually yours. You're barely awake, and you're already reaching. That reach has a name. Most people just don't want to hear it. The word is worship, and I'd be willing to bet you're doing it every single morning without realizing it. Here's an observation that's hard to unsee once you see it. The posture of someone staring down at the phone is not new. Head down, shoulders curved forward, both hands wrapped around the small object, eyes fixed, body still. That posture is ancient. Walk into any description of temple worship from 1,000 years ago, and you'd recognize it immediately. The body knows how to bow. It's been practicing for millennia. What's changed isn't the posture, it's what's receiving it. And I'm not saying that to be dramatic. I'm saying it because Jesus made an observation about this that is uncomfortably precise. Matthew 6:21, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. He wasn't talking about bank accounts. He was talking about attention, about what you return to when nothing is demanding anything from you, about what you consult when something goes wrong, about what you want within arm's reach when you can't sleep. That's the operational definition of treasure, not what you'd say matters most, what you actually act like matters most. Ancient idols, and I mean the literal carved stone kind, promised specific things: prosperity, protection, the feeling that someone powerful was aware of you and on your side. Modern platforms promise the same things in updated language: significance, connection, relevance, the feeling that you're not missing anything and you're not alone. It's the same offer, just modernized. Exodus 20 puts "no other gods before me" in the first 10 things worth saying, not because God is insecure, because it was given to a people who had watched entire civilizations reorganize themselves around the wrong thing and had seen what happens next. Now, one thing worth saying before this turns into a guilt trip, which it's not going to. The pull you feel toward your phone is not primarily a character flaw. It's the intended output of a system built by very smart, very well-funded people whose one job was to make sure that you can't stop. Every notification timing, every scroll mechanic, every variable reward loop was designed and tested and refined before it got to your pocket. You're not fighting your own laziness. You're fighting an apparatus that has been specifically engineered to feel like impulse. That's not an excuse to keep doing it. It's just useful to know what you're actually up against. Because guilt produces shame, and shame mostly produces more scrolling. The real damage, though, isn't the attention it takes. It's the silence it's replaced. I don't mean silence as a spiritual practice that you have to schedule and protect. That's important, but I'm talking about something different. I'm talking about the accidental silence, the kind that used to happen whether you wanted it or not. Driving alone on a long stretch of road with nothing on the radio, waiting at the tire shop with nothing to do, lying awake at 3 a.m. with only your own thoughts for company. Admittedly, not always a pleasant experience, but those gaps were doing something. They were the moments when you figured out what you actually thought about something, when the thing you'd been avoiding in your own head finally caught up to you, when you remembered what you actually wanted before anyone else's voice had gotten to you first. We filled every one of those gaps. Psalm 46:10 is one of those verses that's been on enough mugs and wall prints that it's hard to hear anymore. Be still and know that I am God. Read it as a sequence, though, rather than a sentiment. Be still first, then know. The stillness isn't the reward, it's the condition. And we've inverted that completely. Jesus, who had more legitimate demands on his attention than any person who's ever lived, got up before dawn and went somewhere alone to pray. Mark 1:35. Not occasionally, as a pattern. The person with the most justification for being constantly available chose not to be. That's a decision that was made deliberately and repeatedly, and it tells you something about what he understood about how this all works. The consequences of eliminating silence aren't mysterious. Anxiety that won't resolve because it never gets examined. Relationships that stay at the surface level because real presence requires the kind of stillness that neither person is actually practicing. A faith that feels thin because the one environment where it tends to deepen keeps getting interrupted before anything takes hold. None of that is complicated. It's just hard to see when you're in the middle of it. So I have 3 practical takeaways for you. First, put a screen-free window at the start of your morning before the phone comes off the nightstand. It doesn't have to be long, just long enough that the first thought of the day is yours rather than whoever sent you something at midnight and whatever the algorithm decided you needed to see first. Second, pick one space in your house where it doesn't go. Not as a rule for anyone else, as a decision you're making about what that space is for and what kind of presence you want to have in it. And third, before you open your phone out of habit rather than out of intention, stop for a second and ask what you're actually looking for. Because most of the time, the honest answer is nothing in particular. And nothing in particular is exactly what you'll get. The question isn't whether the altar exists. It does. Everybody's got one. The question is just whether what's on yours is what you meant to put there. If this video connected with you, there's a related question worth your time. We've talked about what happens when you hand your attention to an algorithm. This video is about what happens when you hand your thinking to one.